I would like to invite our next speaker on stage, Mr. Subho Halder, is a co-founder and CTO at Appknox, a mobile security company that helps developers and companies to build secure mobile applications. He looks after the security technologies and the product development to ensure we are always ahead in our game. So ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. Let's welcome our next speaker on stage. A very, very warm welcome to you, sir.
Oh, okay. Thank you for attending the last section of the day. I hope you guys had a good tea break. Yeah, so I don't want to bore you guys, but I want it to be really interactive. And so what I'm going to talk about today is about mobile security, the scenario revolving around mobile security. A little bit about me. I'm Subho Halder, and I'm the co-founder and the CTO of Appknox. I've been talking in several security conferences such as Black Hat, Syscan, OWASP, RSA, and stuff like that. I've been presenting papers on mobile security focused researches. And then I decided to start up so you can visit our stall outside Appknox. So before I get into my slides and make it a one-sided talk, let me ask you simple questions. The answer is just to raise your hand or not. So raise your hand is yes. Do not raise your hand is no. How many of you use Android phones, Android smartphones? Oh, good, good. And iOS, iPhones? The rich people, very few. Nice, good. So, and how many of you use not a smartphone, like a normal brick phone, like the Nokia? Oh, there's one guy, two. Amazing. So you guys must be either very poor or very security conscious guys. So I'm guessing it's a security kind of conference setting, so you are a security conscious guy, which is amazing, which is cool. So just before I start, this is the question which I ask, because everyone knows about how programs in Android is written, right? What is the language used to write a program for Android apps? Guesses? Someone say Java. Anyone wants to contradict? Everyone is happy with the answer called Java, right? So let me tell you this. When I was in class 8, when I was studying Java, right? And I guess you guys also went through Java sometime in your life. You would know that there is a function called, this is not a programming talk, I know, but just to give you a perspective, you must have written a function called public static void main. Right? And in case of any program, a main function is required to start a program. But if you look at a mobile application, there is no main function. You do not write a main function at all. Then how can you say that the language being used in Android is Java? Right? Now taking that analogy and putting it into perspective of security, any Java-based security tools which are out there, source code analysis, jar analysis, and stuff like that, would it work properly for mobile applications? Of course not. Because the way these security tools work is it needs to find one entry point, right? And then from there it goes on. But there is multiple entry points for mobile application. Now, giving you all these tidbits, I want to take it forward by talking about a little bit about spendings on today's world. This is by Gartner, right? So this is what Gartner says. So Gartner says that in the world there is $81 billion amount being used for IT security products all over the world together, right? Covered together. And around approximately $525 are being spent per employee annually, right? All over the world. And business spends 5% of their total IT budget. Now 5% is on higher side. I have known companies who spends 2 to 3% budgets, but 5% budgets on IT security, correct? But yet, these companies who spends the most on security, like Target, eBay, Walmart, were even hacked, right? A year ago, Target was hacked. It was storing all credit card details and data in the server without a proper hash. eBay was hacked multiple number of times. Walmart was also hacked. So if these guys who spend the most, they do not spend 5% of their IT security, they spend a lot more, a whole lot more. They have their own security team who spends so much in security. If these guys have problems like this, right, then what can we do? So, in the words of David Lello, who is the director at Gartner, he says that it's possible to spend a fortune on security. But if it's done poorly, it doesn't help the business, right? So you know that Android apps are not written in Java, but you are still gonna go ahead and buy a Java-based tool, a security scanner, or ID policies which does not apply to your IT organization, and you're gonna go ahead and buy those. And you're gonna spend a fortune doing that. But will it actually secure you? It's not that the amount of money you spend is equal to the amount of secure you are. It's not that, right? It needs to be some effective ways of securing it. Okay, so that calls for something called specialist, right? Now, I call myself a mobile security researcher. I do not call myself a cyber security researcher or a security guy. I'm a specialist in one thing, which is mobile security. That is it. So similarly, there are specialists coming up in the field of, there are network security researchers, there are other security researchers. So you need a specialist to handle all of these security loopholes which are out there, which is going to be there, right? So now I represent a company called Appknox, and Appknox's core focus is only mobile security. It doesn't deal with any other thing. Anything which relates to mobile security, it deals with it. Now to give you a different perspective, what do you mean by mobile? Mobile is not your Android phones, right? Mobile is something which is portable and which can move around. So there's this thing, this hype which came up. I'm pretty sure there was a lot of talk about it. It's called IoT, Internet of Things devices, right? These IoT devices are nothing more than just a mobile phones. It's just not a phone, it's just a mobile devices, right? And the interesting part about all these IoT devices is it does not connect with your desktop. It connects with your phone. Any IoT devices, it connects with your phone. So just a month ago, I was there attending a talk on IoT cyber security world in Singapore, and there was this really amazing guy who was talking about how smart cities are going to be built using IoT platforms, right? So this guy is talking about smart cities. This guy is talking about making everything digital. And at the end, he says, we need an app for every citizen of Singapore who can, see their usage bill metrics and everything, disable or enable their parking lots and everything, and that is what a smart city is. So I was thinking in my mind, why not in a desktop computer? Why not in a web interface? Why it needs to have a mobile device? Because mobile device is very personal to you, right? So yeah, so there comes a rise of mobile devices, and a lot of attack surface has emerged in case of mobile devices. So that is why we need specialities. We need specialists who can deal with specific points of your configuration, like either it's going to be a mobile, or it's going to be network, or it's going to be an IoT, right? So everyone has its own speciality. So you need to have specialists, not a generalist kind of security. Okay, let's go to the next one. A little bit about Appknox, whom I represent. We have around 900% growth from the year 2014. That's where we started. We are not an old company. We are pretty much young. We have around 100 plus clients with whom we work, and we have been featured in a lot of different awards and functions. And we have also found vulnerabilities in companies like Facebook, Yahoo, Microsoft, Skype, Google, which you think is secure, right? So yeah. And these are our customer profiles. So in India and Southeast Asia, we have been working with a few of these companies: Chiller, Redbus, Paytm, NPCI, Singapore Airlines. These are some of our companies with whom we have already worked with. And the reason they have come on board and have started working with us is just because of the first slide which I showed you, the second slide, I'm sorry, which talks about specialists, right? So we only take care about one thing, which is mobile apps. Now, I'll go back to the previous slide just to show something. So since we are a specialist, there is a lot of problem which comes if you use a specialist. First problem is managing. So if you have different security vendors for network, for mobile, for server, for IT policies, the biggest problem would be to have it all into one single dashboard. And of course, if you guys have any questions, please raise your hand and stop me in the middle. I'm happy to answer you guys, right? I don't want it to be one-sided. So yeah, so how many of you have worked with multiple security vendors? Oh, cool. How many security vendors? 2, 3, 6? Holy shit. And what about you? 3, 4, right? So one of the biggest problems, I guess you would all agree with me, is to manage all these 6 or the 3, 4 vendors all together. And not only managing, you need to give your, let's say if it's a server-side scanning, which you're doing with 3 security vendors, 3 different security vendors, you need to give it under certain configuration, you need to install an SDK if it is an app, you need to do something, you need to change your code, and or you need to send your code and you need to keep a track, whom did you send a code and stuff like that, right? So what Appknox does is it's basically just a plug and play kind of stuff. So we do not require any source code at all from you. And we do not require you to change anything in your security flow. So if you have a security processes, we just exactly fit over there. It's just more like a plug and play for us. Okay. Mobile application security testing. How many of you know about this? Okay. Oh, quite a few, which is interesting. Nice. So this is a really rising term which is coming into picture because India has transformed itself into digital India, right? Which is an amazing movement. It's amazing for us because we are getting more jobs. We're getting more vendors coming to us and trying to scan their phones because everything is now shifting to mobile, right? So when the digital payment has now disrupted everything in India, it is at a growth which no other country is at par with India. So coming to the point of mobile application security testing, this is something which is right now the most hottest topic ever. And there are other hot topics also, for example, threat. So threat detection is another thing which people are really focused on. Now the problem with threat detection is if there is a threat happening, you detect it, and now what, right? So these are certain problems which I have seen with companies. So there are certain kind of security companies who are, one of them are threat detection companies, the others are kind of a BYOD kind of companies, and the last kind of companies would be security companies who actually does vulnerability analysis, VAPT kind of companies, right? Now, I have a soft corner for VAPT kind of companies because they are the actual security guys. They find out your security issues and tells you how to fix it, right? Security is nothing more than a logical flaw, right? You all have to agree with that. Security is nothing but a logical flaw or a configuration issue. That is it, right? So even if a threat comes, if your logic is proper, one cannot do a SQL injection in your app or in your website, right? Because your website or your app is logically sound not to give or not to accept improper input. So security is always a logical flaw. Now there are threat detection which comes in the middle, right? So threat detection. The problem with the threat detection is it detects your threat, blocks the threat, doesn't solve the problem. You still have those flaws, right? And then you have IT policies which comes into picture, which takes how many times this threat was detected and now what can you do on top of that. So threat detection is somewhat okay, helpful for you, but it doesn't actually solve the security problem. And then the third one comes as BYOD. Now the problem with BYOD is it's not a security solution per se. It is just a security for your employees so that they can bring your device, they can bring any third-party device into the whole premise and use the device on your premise. That is it. That is what BYOD does. It does not solve logical flaws. It does not solve security problem. Now people should understand that. that VAPT is still what a security solution looks like. Okay, now mobile application security testing should also follow the proper VAPT guideline. So these are certain terms I hope everyone knows about it. There is something called SAST, that's static analysis, dynamic analysis, manual analysis. So this is what we offer at Appknox. So we do all kind of analysis, static, dynamic, manual, even SDKs, even the SDKs which you guys are using inside your app, right? But I told you that we are specialists in security, in mobile security, right? But we also do a little bit of server-side scanning. But this kind of server-side scanning does not guarantees that your server code is proper, but we do server-side scanning where the app tries to connect with the server and what part of those servers has a logical flaw. So that's what we kind of find out. Of course, we work with different verticals. We have been working with e-commerce, fintech, banking, gaming, FMCG, and so on. So these are certain verticals with whom we are currently working with, and yeah. So this is how Appknox work, but I want to generalize this slide for everyone who wants to implement security into their company, mobile security, right? So since I'm from Appknox, I'm going to talk about how Appknox work, but actually the same thing you can replicate in your company, or of course you can come to us. Yeah. So I'm going to start from point number 2 to point number 5, right? So the first thing, when you are doing a security assessment, you need to do a static code analysis, right? So you need to find out if there is any configuration issues. Static analysis only covers 30% of your app analysis. In case of website, it covers 25% of your website analysis, because static code analysis is not intelligent enough. It just finds out configuration issues. How many of you agree with that? Okay, so there's 2 very participative audience, which is amazing. Okay, so yes, so static source code analysis or static analysis only figures out configuration level issues. Now there are certain static analyzers which are out there in the market which are a little bit more intelligent, which tries to find out if there is any other logical flaws also in the code itself, right? They are doing a great job. But static analysis will still cover not 100% of your security whole coverage. It's just going to cover 25% of the risk which your application might have, correct? The next is dynamic analysis. The dynamic analysis is something amazing. So dynamic analysis covers, after the 25% or 30% for static, the dynamic analysis covers around 45% of your application, right? It has a lot more coverage than a static source code analysis. The reason is dynamic analysis can go through logics across your code base, across any platform, right? So that's how dynamic analysis works. Now, if I talk about Appknox, so Appknox performs static analysis by when you upload your APK or an IPA file, since we only focus on mobile apps, nothing else. So if you upload your APK or an IPA file into a dashboard, we're going to start the static analysis. We do not do decompilation, if you know what it means, like decompiling the app and finding out the source code. But we try to find out configuration issues out of static analysis. And after that, we perform a dynamic analysis. Now, this is what I'm really proud of at Appknox. We have a device farm. So we have a lot of device attached in a server. And whenever an app gets uploaded into a dashboard, the app gets installed in that device. And you get to see that app in your web page and interact with the app. And while you're interacting with the app, all flaws is performing, like the app is having while it's being performed by you, while you're interacting with the app. So just to give you an example, let's say there is an app where you log in, right? So once you log in, you click on sign up. Now I'm pretty sure most of the developers, what they do is they either save the username password, those are very bad developers, or they save the session tokens so that the next time when you start the app, you do not need to log in again, right? So that's why the developers do that, right? And that cannot be found from static analysis. Of course, there are logics to find that. I'm not going to deny that. But dynamic analysis is going to be much more easier for you to figure out what is the logic behind saving those source code token, or static it say the name word statically inside. So static analysis kind of helps you to find. What we do is we show you the screen, and while you're interacting with the app, we kind of find out all these issues and present it to you. The fourth part is the API analysis. How many of you know about API analysis? Okay, cool. You know everything. That's amazing. So API analysis is something amazing because now there is something called REST APIs coming into picture, SOAP APIs. There's so many other APIs are coming into pictures. Why? Because people have moved forward from a traditional one server website to a dynamic distributed systems connecting with different programs, IoT devices connecting with different devices, so they need APIs to interact with each other. So that's where API comes in. So we also perform API scanning, and this kind of API scan happens in the server side. So API scan is more of a server-side scan component which we do have. So while you're performing dynamic scan, we kind of record all the URLs which are being used to perform the scan, and then do an API scan on top of that, right? And the last is user behavior analysis. How many of you know about this? Of course. Of course. So basically, it's more like a business logic analysis. So every business has their different logic, right? So for a gaming app, it's okay to store the score, right? But for a shopping cart, it's not okay to store the cart items. Things like that. For a payment wallet, it's not okay to keep the user logged in 24/7. But for a gaming app, it is okay to keep it logged in for 24/7. Now, these are certain business use cases which cannot be automated, which can be understood from what these businesses are. So we have different verticals, if I have shown you before. Each vertical has their own set of business logics, right? So according to those business logic, we kind of find out what would be the logic, why would this part of this is going to be vulnerable to one business and not going to be vulnerable to other businesses. So that's where user behavior analysis comes. And of course, at the end, there is a detailed report which you can go through. Of course, we provide continuous integration. We have around more than 115 test cases, and it's a completely binary scan. You do not need to provide us with any source code, just the binary is enough. And of course, we do a lot of compliance checks like PCI DSS and etc. Okay. A little bit about static analysis. As I told you, static analysis can be used if you are going for these kind of certification, which is CVSS or HIPAA or PCI DSS. They have proper, recommendation about what needs to be there in case you are doing a source code or a static analysis. And of course, at Appknox, we also perform those static analysis. And these are the certain important points which should be covered in static analysis, which is configuration checks, which I told you, SDK library check, compliance check, and of course, CVSS coding for each vulnerabilities which you find. Dynamic analysis, as I've already talked about in the previous slides, how it is performed. This is how it looks like in Appknox. You get to see the screen, you get to interact with it, and it happens. Of course, the manual analysis is the user behavioral analysis. It depends on business to business. You get a button called manual, you can click on it. We have an in-house security team who are mobile-focused security researchers, and they're going to detect issues. Business logic validation, they're going to look at all the APIs. They're going to do an in-depth analysis at your architecture. So this is what an API analysis should look for, right? So even in an organization, if you do have an API analysis or server-side analysis, these are certain things which you should be looking for, like buffer overflow, command injection, JSON parsers, CORS, wildcard, and these are certain things which you should be looking for. At Appknox, we have more than 100+ test cases categorized into 9 distinct groups for API analysis. We have a total security of web servers and database which is implemented. And we have an on-demand scanning with a push of your button from your dashboard. So if you don't want to do API scanning during the whole process, but at the end, you can even do that. These are some of the clients who have been using Appknox, and that's their feedback. Citrus, Big Basket, Drone HQ, Zep, Pay, Redmart, Hook, few of our clients who gave us a good feedback. And these are some of the awards which we won. because of our unique kind of solution where we offer the whole environment of a mobile security testing under one roof without you having to change a single piece of code. So, yeah. A little bit about our founders. That's me, the last picture. Then we have Pratik, he's the CMO and the co-founder. He's from SP Jain, and he handles our marketing. And then there's Harshit, he's the CEO at Appknox, and he handles sales and, of course, fundraising. And we are specialists in our own different fields, right? So I'm the security guy, Harshit is the startup guy, Pratik is the marketing guy. So what I'm looking forward for is how Appknox can be a partner to your security journey and how I can help you guys for securing at least your application, at least your mobile application. You need specialists, not a generalist approach to secure app or phones or in any case your websites. You need specialists for each and every region. Yeah, awesome, thank you. So if you have any questions, please.
Mr. Tausir Beg, Senior Sales Manager from Explore Exhibitions and Conference, I would request you to kindly come on stage and thank our speaker for presenting the certificate. Thank you so much. Give him a round of applause. That was a beautiful interactive session. Thank you.